Hi, students. So today we're going to talk about McDonaldization, an idea that comes from a guy named George Ritzer. And this is a really popular idea. You can read McDonaldization. They have them at like Barnes and Noble. I find them all over the place. But it's kind of an interesting way to think about bureaucracy because rather than going through the formal parts of a bureaucracy, it kind of does the same thing, only we're using McDonald's as an example rather than, something more abstract. It's kind of a good way to do this. Okay, so what is McDonaldization? Basically, Ritzer said that society has kind of taken the model of McDonald's and their business success, and it's applied that to a whole bunch of other things in society. One thing Ritzer talks a lot about is healthcare and how we've kind of McDonaldized healthcare. So we've made it like quick and efficient and calculable and all of this and controlled through automation, but then it loses something in that too. So we'll talk about that at the very end. So first, what Ritzer did was he realized that there were basically four different ways that organizations were taking this McDonald's set of procedures and they were applying it to their company. So these are the principles of McDonaldization. The first one is efficiency. So I have some little stats here. At I've never worked at McDonald's, but Ritzer says that you get about 50 seconds if you work at McDonald's from the time that the customer finishes their order until they're expected to have the food in their car and driving away at the drive-through. 50 seconds. That's crazy. Like if I was trying to prepare a meal for my family in 50 seconds, like I don't even think I could grab the cereal, the bowls, pour the milk and throw it at them in 50 seconds. Like 50 seconds is amazing to think about from the time you finish saying what food you want to it's in your car and you're driving away. It's very, very efficient. But, right? What do you get in 50 seconds? Not really great nutritional food in 50 seconds, right? It was fried up quick, packaged quickly, and it doesn't have a lot of nutritional nuance if you can prepare it in 50 seconds. Right. And that's just if we want food in 50 seconds, we can't expect something really, nutritionally rich. That's not going to happen. That takes time. Right. Okay. So that's the first principle of McDonaldization. And this has been shifted into a lot of different parts of society. Right. Like, oh my gosh, in Florida, they have drive-through liquor stores where you literally drive in, they lift the hatch and put your food in or your beer, alcohol in for you, close the door, and away you go, right? Very efficient, but I'm not sure that we want efficiency in that space. Okay, what's the next one? Calculability. This just means that things are easily calculated for the business model. So, for example, at McDonald's, every regular hamburger is exactly 1.6 ounces. It's exactly 3.875 inches across, and it's exactly 19% fat content. Every fry is exactly 9/32 of an inch thick. Okay, this one I have a little example for you. Have any of you ever just got a pound of ground beef and made your own hamburgers? It's really tricky to do, right? Like I always wind up with like 3 or 4 normal-ish burgers, right? And then I always wind up with like the little baby burger at the end because there's a little more meat and I don't want to start all over. So we always give that one to the youngest child, right? Like that's the baby burger. It's very unpredictable. Sometimes I wind up with 5 burgers and they're all small. Who knows, right? Like when my hands start to get sticky, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Like it's very hard to calculate. If somebody gives me a pound of hamburger, who knows how many burgers we'll wind up with, right? Whereas McDonald's knows exactly, like if they get a certain number of potatoes or a certain pound of potatoes, they know exactly how many French fries that's going to make. It's very easy to calculate. We do this in other parts of the economy as well, where we try to figure out exactly if we have this many students and we have this many classrooms, we can put them in, groups of this and push the students through the college very quickly, right? Where we start, the problem is we start to get focused on calculating our business costs and not providing something of quality to our customers. Okay, so what's the next one? And these are so cheery, right? Uniformity and predictability. This is the idea that, like, at how many of you, if we hopped in our cars right now and we drove over to McDonald's, you know exactly what number you would order, you know about how much it would cost, and obviously I already talked about the fact that we know that it'll be pretty quick, right? We'll be out of there in no time, and away we go. This is that uniformity and predictability that makes a lot of these large companies kind of comfy and cozy for us. I think Amazon has really fed off of this, right? We get on their website, we know how it works, we know that shipping will be relatively quick, we know that we can get a refund if things don't work out. Like, it's so uniform and predictable that we feel comfy cozy. Another example is like Walmart. You can go into Walmart anywhere in the United States and they're all laid out the same. So you can just go in there, grab whatever you need really quick, and away you go, right? You feel kind of comfy or cozy. This has probably been 20-ish, 25 years ago, but I was in a McDonald's in Colorado Springs, and they were trying out this, so this is before smartphones and stuff, but they were trying out this new thing where customers would go into the restaurant, sit at a table, and then use a phone that was like attached on a cord at the table to call in their order. And they thought that would be more efficient, right? Because then there's no people waiting in line and they can prioritize orders independently of the line. Like, it was a good idea. But when I was in there at this McDonald's, people were freaking out, right? They were like, I just want to get in line and get my food. They were comfortable with the way McDonald's had always done things, having that line, and they were not willing. I saw people walk out of the restaurant because they didn't want to try something new. And obviously it didn't take over, right? Like now, even like ordering online with the coronavirus and stuff, like it's taken it a while to sort of rev up, even though it's completely necessary, right? Because we like things the way we've always, I just want to go in McDonald's and order my junk food, right? We're just comfy and cozy, and we're pretty resistant to change. Okay. Last one, control through automation. So what this means is that we've used robotics and artificial intelligence to make the process much more controlled, right? Fewer mistakes are made. For example, to work at McDonald's, one doesn't necessarily need to know how to read. One doesn't necessarily need to know how to count change, right? The computers do all of that. One might even argue that one doesn't even need to know how to cook to be a cook at McDonald's, right? Like the machines, have you ever been in there when the fry machine is like losing it because it wants somebody to take the fries out of the fryer? Like, you don't even need to know. You don't even need to be able to look at the fries and say, oh, I think they're about done, right? The machine tells you. This gives the company a lot of control. Fewer mistakes are made. There's not a lot of human error. The problem is, though, that one can work at, like, let's say McDonald's for years and years, and yet you don't really have any marketable skills that you could pass on to move up in the social structure. Whereas, like, if you worked at a mom and pop restaurant and you're making burgers and you're cutting potatoes and making fries, if you work there for 5 years, you're going to have some skills to be a chef at another institution, right? But if you're working at McDonald's, you don't have that ability to advance or move up, right? Now, this is a give and take, right? Because McDonald's employs a lot of people of a lot of different ability levels, right? They employ so many people who might not be able to find a job otherwise. The problem is, though, that the people can't advance out of that position, and that makes it kind of difficult to say that this is a good thing. Which leads me to the last little part of our discussion, and we can talk about this in class. But the question that Ritzer poses is perfect rationality actually irrational? So is doing all of these things that are good for business, probably good for some people, is it actually maybe overall irrational and bad? So I'll be excited to hear your viewpoint. I want you to think about these things that are good in our day-to-day lives, but if maybe in a larger sense, in a more bureaucratic or a socialist sociology viewpoint, is it are they maybe bad things? Okay, I can't wait to hear from you. Bye, students. Thanks for hanging with me.